Well, this is a testimony meeting, and giving testimonies and thanks for healings and other benefits that you've received is a very vital and important thing. That's the primary purpose of our meeting here tonight. And for those of you that are on the teleconference, when you're ready to give your testimony, make sure there's no noise where you are. And when you're ready, press *1. That sends us the signal that you're ready to talk. And when we're ready here, we'll call on you. And now I would like to open the meeting to Testimonies of Healing through Christian Science. Jim from Arizona, go ahead.
Thank you. There's an article in the September 1889 Christian Science Journal that begins with the sentence, "Every time you declare you are perfect in God, there goes through the body a health-giving power." This statement is as true and effective today as it was 125 years ago when it was penned by Mrs. Eddy. We have heard of the 3 dailies. My dailies consist not only of those 3, but an additional 20 or so. This article is one of them. Late last evening, I developed a slight pain in just below the belt or waistline on my right side. It would last for a few seconds and then disappear, and then would reappear in maybe 5 minutes or so. This morning, the slight pain did reappear. As I was going through my dailies this morning, it seemed that they all were ever so meaningful to me, and especially this article by Mrs. Eddy. When I realized that this reoccurring pain had disappeared, I had to out loud say, "Thank you, Shepherd." I am most grateful for Mrs. Eddy and for the science she has provided for all mankind. Thank you.
Thank you.
917399.
Okay, there's someone on from area code 917, starting with 399. Please announce yourself and go ahead with your testimony.
Okay, my name is Pilar from New York, and I wish to give a testimony of a healing I had a couple of weeks ago. I was experiencing some really distressful physical symptoms, and I was browsing through the website, and I found a book written by one of the practitioners of that church. What really attracted me to the book after I read it was that the person that wrote it was a medical nurse like I am, and some of the experiences in there that she had gone through really resonated with me, and so I called her and asked for help. She was very gracious and helped me and agreed to do treatment. Took a couple of days, I will say. After that, the initial call, we exchanged emails back and forth. It was a tenacious kind of situation, but eventually it healed, and I was free of the symptoms in a few days. I'm very grateful that the book is there. I was so thrilled. I bought the book, and I asked for an extra copy as well, which I'm going to give to a colleague, another medical nurse friend of mine, who's going through some also difficult situations. Thank you very much for the readings, and I'm very grateful for the healing I had.
And thank you. Dede from Maryland, go ahead. Dede, you might be on mute because we don't hear you, so please unmute yourself and then go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you. I'm very grateful for this week's roundtable discussion, and particularly for the passage Mary read about handling animal magnetism from Mary Baker Eddy's 6 Days of Revelation. Before hearing this, I did prefer the term evil or error, and the reminder that animal magnetism is any belief in a power apart from God was an awakening for me, which emphasizes the importance of acknowledging God, staying alert, and acting constantly, rather than simply accepting or ignoring wrong suggestions, especially those that are more subtle. After last night's watch, I was feeling very sleepy, and I knew I had some things to do before going to bed, but I just laid down on the couch and I started to fall asleep. And what came to me was this idea of handling animal magnetism, and I just knew it wasn't right for me to just go to sleep and not do anything. So I just started to pray and ask God for help, and in a matter of minutes, I got up and I did exactly what I needed to do, but I did more than I thought I would do. And I'm very grateful for this. I really needed this awakening, and I'm grateful to Mary, to this church, and to God for this. And many thanks to everyone contributing to tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Chardell from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Hello, thank you. If I have to hang up, maybe there are grandchildren and dogs everywhere. I have so much to be grateful for. I was able to get to Plainfield for a Saturday Bible study, and it was just so wonderful. I can't express my gratitude enough. And also, I've been working with a practitioner, and all kinds of wonderful things have been happening as my thought has been changed. And I can tell the change in me. I will give you one brief one. I have a 3-year-old grandchild. He was very sick the other night, and I prayed and I did what I was told from the practitioner. I've been reading Day by Bicknell Young every day, sometimes more than once a day. And this sweet child, was healed very quickly. And today he went to school for the first time, preschool, for his first day. It's very beautiful. And all of you, thank you. You have no idea how I think your radiance shines, and I thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you.
On the home page of our website, there's a quote from our textbook and the correlative from the Bible. From the textbook, divest yourself of the thought there can be substance in matter. Then being will be recognized as spiritual, and death will be obsolete. Now the correlative, the substance of a diligent man is precious, from Proverbs. A diligent man. Divest yourself of the thought that there can be substance in matter does not just happen. It takes diligence. And the diligence that the substance it brings with it is precious. It is so much more than the diligence that people talk about. If you work hard, you can make a lot of money. It's nothing in comparison. Nothing. But how many people think of divesting thought this way? Divesting yourself of the thought that there can be substance in matter. It's something we need to be doing constantly. We need to work at it. Be diligent. If you have a pain, you don't sit there and thinking, oh my gosh, and going all over the symptoms and rehashing the symptoms, but you immediately get to that there's no substance in matter. Matter can't talk, etc. So one thing that drew me to Christian Science was that there's something you can do. Before I came here in Christianity, you pray to God, and basically you hope for the best. That's not how this works. And I'm so grateful for Mary Baker Eddy's revelation to show us we have step-by-step things to do. It's not trivial. It's not trite. You make a little statement here or there. It's a discipline. And as we do it, we become empowered, and our substance becomes increasingly precious. I'm so grateful for Mary Baker Eddy and Christian Science and for what we have going in this church. Thank you.
Thank you. Shahidat from Maryland, go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to express my gratitude tonight for the thrice weekly watches. It's just too easy to read the paper and be overwhelmed by all the nonsense going on in the world. I feel like the watches are giving me the training needed and the opportunity to stand for the truth and not be absorbed by the darkness. For too long before coming to Plainfield, I did not know the role I have to play in the world as a Christian Scientist. Mrs. Eddy and her household made a habit of actively praying for the world, and I'm very thankful to have found a church community that has actively taken up that mantle. Thank you so much for the readings.
Thank you. Laverne from Maryland, go ahead.
Hi. I'm so grateful to be here tonight. I would like to express my gratitude for a beautiful healing that I had since joining the Plainfield Church and working with a Christian Science practitioner from this church. Before I found Plainfield, I was taking high dosages of iron because I was always tired and I experienced frequent fainting spells and periodic hemorrhaging. And because I didn't know any better, because I didn't know the truth that I'm learning that sets free. And I thank God today that today I have plenty of energy. And both the fainting spells and the hemorrhaging have been completely healed. And that's because my mind is being renewed, and I'm learning that God is the only cause, and I keep holding to that. And He causes only good. And I'm truly grateful for this healing. And as Lenny mentioned in her testimony last week, I'm grateful for so many other healings that I've experienced since joining this church. It would take all night for me to even mention every last one. And I thank God. I thank God every day, all day long, for this church and for the practitioners that help me, and for Christian Science, and for your dedication to God, and for the rebuke when I'm not reflecting God, and for your enduring love. And for all of your inspiring testimonies tonight and for the beautiful readings.
Thank you. Linda from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. I want to thank you for the beautiful music of the prelude this evening and the wonderful reading. I have so much to be grateful for, but tonight what I would like to share is how the recording of Science and Health read by Andrew Kidd on the Wellspring website has blessed me. Before coming to Plainfield, I spent a couple of years listening to Boston's audio edition of Science and Health. As I began exploring the Plainfield website, I came across Mr. Kidd's audio of Science and Health. And still to this day, I can remember, this was months ago, as I listened to it, it was like being roused suddenly from like a dreaming state in the power of the words, and I felt so energized and alert and like a call for action. It was like coming out of a fog. I almost could understand the feeling of the disciples when they said, "Did not our heart burn within us?" And this was a wonderful turning point for me because I was pretty distrustful of Christian Scientists and very leery up to this point. And but I knew that this was something very different here, and it has been. And I'm very grateful for this, that it brought me here and opened the door and all the wonderful things that I have experienced since been here. This audio has, for me, developed a new respect for Mrs. Eddy's writings. It's lifting the veil, and it's bringing comfort. I want to express my appreciation for the quality and care of this amazing gift that's being freely given to the world. I did not fully understand its purpose until recently, and I'm very glad to have been awakened and have more awareness of the privilege and duty I have in the support of this mission. And I just want to say thank you again, and thank everybody for their part of the Plainfield Church. Good evening.
And thank you. Well, I'd like to add my thanks tonight. There's something really fundamental that I really honestly feel like I'm just starting to learn, really just starting. You know, it's so easy to have this Christian Science and say how wonderful it is and how it can indeed remove the unpleasant human experiences from our life. But that's just a start. The other thing is, there are things that are experiences which are totally on a human level that we think are totally pleasant and totally worth holding on to and gripping onto. And I was a big one for really holding on to them very tightly until I realized that these are the things that are blocking me more than any other thing from being the reflection of God and being His man. And I didn't even know it. You know, we just heard the story read about the tares in the wheat, and it's come to me so clearly that unless I'm really willing to depart with the pleasant human side of things, I'm not even beginning close to separating the tares from the wheat yet. And this is the thing that's blocking being the reflection of God. And I guess what I just have to say is I'm grateful that I'm aware of this now, although I got a long, long ways to go, but I love it. I'm starting little by little, all these things I used to cling to, I'm thinking like, God, if this needs to pass from my experience, you take it, because the thing that I want more than anything else is to be your reflection. So I'm grateful for Christian Science and everything that's going on here in this church. The Moores from Georgia, go ahead.
Thanks, this is Lenny. I just wanted to give my gratitude tonight. Where do I start? The readings were wonderful. The testimonies tonight, I can't tell you how it warms my heart to hear from everybody. It's so inspiring. And so I wanted to add my voice to it as well. I was thinking a lot recently of just how grateful I am to be in a church where, like others have said, there's a level of activity and alertness, and if the alertness shifts or it kind of fades, we've got each other's backs, and we're always active and always pushing to grow more. It's just been so wonderful for me. So I love how everyone's putting that into practice. I wanted to share an experience I had a couple weeks ago where I got a chance to put what I was learning into practice. I had gone out to a park nearby just to do a quick run, and was running around, and all of a sudden I felt a very sharp pain in my ankle. I looked down, and there was a big hornet had landed on my ankle somehow as I was running. Apparently I wasn't running fast enough, and had stung me. And I brushed him away, but was in quite a bit of pain. And my kind of initial thought was, oh my gosh, why is this happening? Or this is so odd and random. And then I immediately stopped. And what I've learned in this church kicked in. And I realized that, instead of looking for why or where or getting all worked up, that this was my opportunity to express my oneness with God, and to also, as we talked about recently, just to handle this claim of animal magnetism. I think it was at the roundtable this past week that Mary had read a statement where Mrs. Eddy said, just about for pretty much everything, you handle animal magnetism, rather than worrying about symptoms or, specifics of, what seems to be physically happening. And so that's what I did. And the kind of the anger I felt at the hornet and the situation and this, quote-unquote ruining of my run, it just left. As I was walking home, the pain left. The thought came into my head, maybe this is a call that I need to go home and do some prayers. Maybe the world needs my help right now. I didn't know why, but I got my thought off of that. I walked home. By the time I got home, the pain was completely gone. And long story short, there was no swelling and no return of the pain after that. And I walked home. I did some work for the world. I did just a watch, and then I went out and finished my run with no side effects at all. So I was so grateful for that opportunity, and just again for the work, the practitioners and the training that I've gotten from calling in daily and working with my practitioner. That was just one kind of neat little example for me of just God's immediate effectiveness in my life. And thanks again, everybody, for tonight. And I'm just so grateful for this church and for Christian Science and everything that Mrs. Eddy has given us.
Thank you.
Just have to comment or correct something that was said a little earlier. It was said that you just want nothing more than to be God's reflection. That's impossible. Think about it. How can you want to be a reflection? Brings to mind exemplification. And Mrs. Eddy says, there is but one way of doing good, and that is to do it. There is but one way of being good, and that is to be good. And I'm sure she was addressing people who were saying, well, I really want to be good. So, no such thing as wanting to be a reflection. You either are or not, and wasting time if you're wanting to be reflection.
Thank you. Fairley from Maryland, go ahead.
Thank you. I am eternally grateful for Mrs. Eddy and her gift of Christian Science to the world. In being here at Plainfield and becoming much closer to God, gradually gaining more understanding of the rules and laws of God's universe, recently I had the opportunity to use the truth that I've learned that nothing is ever really lost in divine mind. My husband lost his set of car keys to our car. With our various comings and goings, we each need to have a set. I said and was knowing all the time that nothing is ever really lost. But we looked everywhere, but days went by. We found out that a new key alone was going to cost us $150, and with the remote, $300. But we finally decided to call the dealer and make an appointment to get a new key. On a Friday, I went in, but on arriving, I was told that the agent to deal with it had been unable to come in that day. At first, I was, of course, disappointed, but made another appointment for the following Monday. Then it began to occur to me that this added time over a weekend, I felt a spiritual uplift, that this might be the answer to my prayer, since the keys still might turn up, though we were no longer looking for them. I had told my husband I would just let it go. The weekend went by. On Monday morning, just a few minutes before I was to leave for the new appointment, my husband walked into the room and showed me the keys. He said he had found them in his desk drawer where we had both looked before more than once. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Janet from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to express my gratitude this evening, too, for the wonderful readings and for the inspiration of all of the testimonies. They've been wonderful. I'd like to share an experience I had many years ago. I'm so grateful for God's protection. I was in my early 20s, and I was thinking about finding an apartment in Manhattan. And a friend of mine said she was going out of the country for several months, and why don't I take her apartment and house it for her, and maybe I could make a decision if I really did indeed want to live in Manhattan or not. I was on my way home from work, walking the street of Manhattan, which are very, very crowded during rush hour, to her apartment, and anyone that's walked in the streets of Manhattan, whether it's rush hour or not, it's very crowded, and everybody seems to like brush against one another or bump into one another, but no one takes much notice of it. You just keep going. And I was walking a pretty good clip, and someone hit my hand, and they said, "I am so very sorry," which is totally unusual. People, like I said, just go on their way. I could tell by the man's accent that he was probably a tourist, and I just said to him, "That's perfectly fine." I never stopped walking. I was walking pretty fast. And he started walking with me. And then he started talking quite inappropriately to me, and I started to get upset, but I never stopped walking, and I didn't look at him, and I just said, "I'm sorry, I'm not interested." I kept walking. He said something again. I said, "I'm not interested." Finally, I stamped my foot in the middle of the street and yelled as loud as I could. I said, "I'm not interested." And he said, okay, and ran across the street and took off, and I never saw him. I don't know where he went. I got to the apartment. I walked inside, and I started shaking violently. My stomach was churning. I was pretty upset. When I looked up on the bulletin board that my friend has in her apartment, and this was the verse from the Bible that she had. It says, "And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity." It just calmed me completely. I knew I never had an experience other than what God has given me. That made me so calm and made me feel so grateful that He was with me the whole time. There was nothing for me to fear. There was nothing for me to get upset about. And I completely stopped shaking. My stomach stopped churning. And I just went about the things that I needed to do for that evening. This is just one of many protections I've had over the years as a student of Christian Science. And I am so grateful for every single one of them. I am grateful for all of you in Plainfield for doing such an inspiring and loving job for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Suzanne from Vermont, go ahead.
Good evening. I'm grateful to be here tonight. The music and the prelude was beautiful, and so were the readings about the tares and the wheat. I think I learned a lot from those readings tonight. I wanted to thank Andrew Kidd for recording the first edition of Science and Health on the audio. I had a several-hour drive today and was able to listen through my iPhone to a few hours of the recordings. And I have to say that what is written on the website about this recording is absolutely true. It's written, "It is sometimes shocking in its directness and clarity. It will surely spiritualize the thought of the listener like nothing else can. The current edition of the textbook is appreciated much more after listening to this startling first edition." It's exactly how I felt listening to it today. It was really startling, and there's something great about listening in the car if you truly are a captive audience and you have full attention. This is a beautiful recording, and I will be getting it on CD so I can listen to it more easily. It's quite a beautiful thing that we have this available to us and available free on the website also to listen to. And I'm very grateful for the teaching in this church and the constant call to action to practice and demonstrate Christian Science instead of just treating it as a theory or something nice on a shelf. But it's only through coming to the Plainfield Church that I'm starting to truly understand and put into practice this beautiful religion that Mrs. Eddy has given us. So I thank you, Plainfield Church, for all that you're doing.
Thank you.